What about requesting a single olive before being executed in 1963? Not just any olive either, a single, whole, pit-intact one. This is exactly what Victor Feguer did. And accused of both kidnapping and murder, Feguer served his sentence with the hope that an olive tree would grow from his grave as a symbol of peace. It's a detail that stands out like a dark punchline, a man who committed shameful acts, desperately seeking a final poetic symbol of reconciliation.
When Feguer was arrested, he claimed that a drug addict from Chicago had actually murdered the doctor.
Then there's John Wayne Gacy, the infamous serial killer who brutally murdered 33 young men. Before his execution, Gacy's final meal was a twisted reflection of his past. A bucket of KFC, fried shrimp, a side of fries, and strawberries. It's almost as if he was saying, "I wasn't just a killer, I once served up chicken." This grim choice of food, so ordinary and American, became a surreal part of his legacy. Gacy's meal transformed his end-of-life ritual into an unforgettable performance.
Let's get it with a verdict.
Bomber Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber responsible for the deaths of 168 people. His selection of 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream stands out as one of the most shocking among final meal requests. How does someone who did such horror choose something as innocent as ice cream? It's as if, in his last moments, he longed for a taste of childhood, a reminder of simpler times. The contrast is both unsettling as a mass murderer indulging in a treat associated with birthday parties and family gatherings. Aileen Wuornos, one of America's few female serial killers, took a different approach. Instead of opting for a lavish or nostalgic meal, she requested only a cup of black coffee. No desserts, no comfort foods, just caffeine. Her choice marked detachment from earthly pleasures. It was as if she had already emotionally logged out, sitting in a waiting room for her end with nothing more than a cup of black coffee to keep her company.
All right.
And I still miss her, and I still love her.
Ricky Ray Rector's last meal was equally strange and unsettling. He ordered steak, fried chicken, cherry Kool-Aid, and pecan pie. But here's the twist. He left the pie untouched, telling guards he was saving it for later. Rector's story becomes even more tragic when you consider that he suffered from severe brain damage after a failed suicide attempt. Where last meals provide hints towards condemned persons' tastes and memories, their final words often reveal even deeper aspects of their souls. These words can be defiant, sorrowful, or poetic, each one resonating long after the execution is over. Take J.W. Ledford Jr. In 2017, as the lethal injection took effect, he coolly quoted Cool Hand Luke, "What we have here is a failure to communicate." In a final act of defiance, he then cursed the execution team. His farewell wasn't filled with tears or pleas for mercy. It was pure, unfiltered theater. One can't help but wonder if this was a last attempt to reclaim some semblance of control or a final moment of mocking protest. In short, it was a mic drop moment. Then there's Kelly Gizendaner. In 2015, Georgia's only female death row inmate broke down. Amid tears and a trembling voice, she began singing Amazing Grace. Her voice cracked, yet the hymn continued, a raw, emotional outpouring that revealed the contradictions of her character. Here was a woman who had played a role in orchestrating her husband's murder, yet in her final moments, she became a figure of tragic vulnerability. For the witnesses, Gizendaner's performance wasn't just about a criminal's remorse, it was a mirror reflecting the messy reality of human nature.
No sedative, requested no final meal, and in his last few breaths.
Troy Davis's case remains one of the most controversial in modern American history. In 2011, as he faced execution in Georgia, a storm of global protest erupted. Davis's last words were as simple as they were incendiary. "I did not kill your father." With the victim's family watching, those 5 words ignited outrage, hope, and a fierce debate over the reliability of the evidence against him. His statement, delivered in an emotionally charged atmosphere, became a rallying cry for activists and a symbol of the deep flaws they perceived in the justice system. Whether Davis was truly innocent or guilty, his final words transformed the individual case into a broader critique.
Marion Bowman Jr. was killed by lethal injection. Bowman said he wouldn't ask Governor McMaster for clemency after the Supreme Court rejected his final appeal.
Fast forward to the case of Marion Bowman Jr., whose execution in 2025 provided another perplexing glimpse into the duality of human nature. In his final moments, Bowman delivered a statement that felt like the verbal equivalent of a car crash, both apologetic and defiant. "I'm sorry for your loss, truly," he said to the victim's family, his tone mixing regret with a striking critique of the justice system. Then there's Thomas Grasso, executed in 1995, whose final blabbing became an instant dark classic. As he awaited his fate, Grasso lamented, "I did not get my SpaghettiOs. I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." On the surface, it sounds absurd. A man on death row upset about pasta shapes. Yet, in that brief moment, his words highlighted a deep-seated frustration, not only with the details of his final meal, but with a system that reduced his life to trivialities. It's the kind of remark that, while ridiculous on its face, confronts the absurdity of traditional execution cultures. Lawrence Brewer's story is equally baffling. The racist murderer's final meal order sparked outrage among Texas officials. Brewer ordered enough food to feed a small army: 2 steaks, a triple cheeseburger, fried okra, BBQ, pizza, ice cream, and peanut butter fudge. But in a final twist of irony, he didn't touch a single bite. One guard reportedly muttered, "We're not running a damn buffet." Brewer's stunt was less about hunger and more about sending a defiant message, a final screw you to the concept of mercy. Yet even this act of rebellion only deepened the public's fascination with the spectacle of execution. The United States isn't the only place where the final rituals of the condemned are seen as symbols. Around the world, different cultures approach the idea of a last meal and last words with their own unique sensibilities. In Japan, for instance, the practice is notably restrained. Death row inmates receive a slight enhancement to the usual prison meals, perhaps an additional piece of fish or a carefully prepared bowl of rice. There's no space for extravagance or drama in a culture that values restraint and dignity, even in the face of death. The emphasis is less on nostalgia or defiance and more on honoring tradition and maintaining a sense of order until the very end. In contrast, Saudi Arabia conducts executions as public events through beheading. In these instances, there's no ritual for a last meal, nor are final words allowed to be recorded. The state prioritizes swift, unquestioned retribution. The lack of any personal farewell highlights a cultural perspective that views the condemned not as individuals, but as representations of state-imposed justice. This serves as a stark reminder that a society's approach to death reflects its values as much as the crimes that resulted in the execution. Across the Atlantic, in countries like Iran, similar themes arise. Although details are often limited due to state secrecy, there have been reports of condemned inmates requesting traditional dishes as a final homage to their cultural roots. One documented case involved a man who asked for a saffron-infused stew, a dish rich in history and symbolism within Persian culture. His last words, quietly relayed by family members, were said to be filled with regret and a desperate plea for forgiveness. Even in the United States, regional differences provide an interesting glimpse into the changing nature of these rituals. In Texas, for example, the practice of allowing last meals has been disrupted by high-profile cases like that of Lawrence Brewer. Public outrage and the desire to avoid spectacle ultimately led to the cancellation of last meal requests altogether. Yet even as some states clamp down on these rituals, others continue to view the final meal as a small but important acknowledgement of the condemned humanity. No discussion of last meals and final words would be complete without mentioning some of the more legendary cases in history. Gary Gilmore, executed in Utah in 1977, stands out as one of the most notorious examples. His brief declaration, "Let's do it," became a rallying cry for those who questioned the morality of the death penalty. While accounts of his last meal differ, some suggesting a simple hamburger, fries, and a soft drink, while others hint at a more elaborate spread, the uncertainty only adds to the legend surrounding his final moments. Gilmore's case sparked a national debate on capital punishment and left a lasting impact on how we view execution rituals. Ronnie Lee Gardner, another inmate executed in Utah in 2010, offers a more contemporary perspective. His last meal reportedly included a classic American combo, a cheeseburger, fries, and a soda, highlighting the everyday nature of his request. However, his final statement, while not as dramatically recorded as some others, carried a defiant tone mixed with regret and protest. Gardner's farewell served as a reminder that even when the system strips away personal control, a final act of choice remains a small, poignant rebellion against fate. Stanley Tookie Williams is a notable figure whose final moments highlight the conflict between redemption and damnation. Executed in 2005 for founding the infamous Crips gang, Williams's last words were a blend of apology, reflection, and challenge. While the exact wording has been debated, many viewed his final statement as an effort to come to terms with the pain he inflicted, while also questioning the system that sentenced him. His words, whether seen as a genuine plea for forgiveness or a strategic attempt to reshape his legacy, ignited a national discussion about the possibility of change in even the most notorious individuals during their last moments. Robert Alton Harris, executed in California in 1992 for the murders of 3 teenagers, chose a simple final meal. Reports indicate he requested a cheeseburger, fries, and a soft drink. His last words, spoken with a calm resignation, lacked any dramatic flair. In Harris's case, the simplicity of both his meal and his farewell raises a poignant question. When life's grandeur is stripped away, what remains is the stark reality of our human vulnerability. International cases add further complexity. In a lesser-known instance from the Philippines, a country that has seen fluctuations in the death penalty, an inmate requested his mother's favorite dish, a comforting bowl of adobo. This request, made away from media scrutiny, was not an act of defiance, but rather a quiet yearning for familial connection. His final words, reportedly a soft goodbye to his loved ones, carried an intimacy that sharply contrasted with the often impersonal nature of state executions. At their core, these rituals are about more than food or fleeting phrases. They're a reflection of our collective struggle to reconcile justice with mercy, punishment with dignity. For many, the debate over last meals and final words is a proxy for the larger arguments about the death penalty itself. Victims' families might argue that a lavish final meal is an insult, a final indulgence granted to someone who has caused immeasurable pain. On the other side, defense attorneys and human rights advocates insist that offering a final meal is the bare minimum of humanity, a final nod to dignity, even in the face of state-sanctioned death. This tension is palpable in every story we've recounted. In the bizarre choices of John Wayne Gacy or the ironic symbolism of Victor Figuere's single olive, we see the intersection of cruelty and compassion, absurdity and depth. It forces us to ask, can a final meal be an act of redemption, or is it merely another twist in the dark comedy of capital punishment? The answer isn't clear-cut. Instead, it reflects the messy, complicated nature of human beings themselves, a blend of light and shadow that remains even in our darkest moments. When we see these stories, whether through grainy news footage, recorded final statements, or the whispered recollections of family members, we're not just witnessing the end of a life. We're watching a final performance, a human farewell that encapsulates decades of pain, defiance, regret, and, sometimes, even humor. Gary Gilmore's brief, "Let's do it," Ronnie Lee Gardner's simple meal and bold farewell, Stanley Tookie Williams's conflicted last words, and Robert Alton Harris's modest goodbye all contribute to a larger picture that compels us to face difficult questions about justice, humanity, and the essence of punishment. When the state holds the ultimate authority over life and death, what does it mean to be human? And is there any dignity in an act that is inherently so harsh and final? As the debate over capital punishment continues, intensified by issues of wrongful convictions, racial inequalities, and ethical dilemmas, the traditions of last meals and final statements still draw public interest. They remind us that even within our most calculated and impersonal justice systems, the human aspect remains. In those final moments when all facades are stripped away, we encounter the raw, unfiltered essence of life itself, chaotic, contradictory, and profoundly real.